when you're ready to stitch your applique, go back to your template and see what colours did you label your stitches. So for mine, I had black applique around my mouth and around my eyes, and I also had some little eyebrows drawn in. So I've got a black matching top thread and bobbin, and then I had a contrasting orange around the edge. So for that I'm going to use, let's have a look what we have available. I'm going to use this really bright one because I just like things to stand out. So I've got those. And then one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in some of my stitch lines that will help me. So one thing I had, I might just zoom in. So I had my eyebrows and I had my teeth that I was going to sew in. So I'm just going to draw those in just lightly with a lead pencil. So I have a guideline for where that's going to go. There's my teeth and then my eyebrows. I'll do like angry eyebrows for some reason. That's what I wanted to do in my design. Okay, and then I am ready to thread up my machine and stitch this applique on. So to begin with, I'm going to do everything in the middle, and then I'm going to do my outside, because while I do everything in the middle, it's going to help keep my felt attached. So when I go do the outside, it's all attached already, and I shouldn't have any problems with this lifting off. So I'm at my machine. I'm going to start off with my black applique stitch. So remembering up the top here on stitch 12, and here we have width we're going to have around 3 to 6, and length 0.5. So what I recommend you do is you get some scrap to test your applique stitch to then decide what width you want it to be. So I do want a smaller applique stitch because I'm doing my little teeth, and I actually want it a little bit closer together. So I'm going to make the length more like a quarter. So when we did it in the test, we did 0.5. So I'm actually making it even smaller, and I'm making my width. Let's have a look. I'm just playing around. I'm making my width 3. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. So that stitch there at the bottom, that's what I'll be doing. So if you have a look up here at my settings, I've made this length quite small. All right, but you always test it first. Then I can do all my teeth lines. So you might start with this one first, and then I'm going to go around the edge. So lining up my presser foot, starting close to the end. I'm going to stitch that, and then I'm going to come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, so I've gone around and done my teeth, and I've gone mostly to the edge, and I'll trim these threads off later. And now I'm going to go around the edge of my mouth. So just remembering when you do your applique stitch around your fabric, your needle is going to go from side to side. So I'm just winding my needle here with the hand wheel, And when it hits on this side of my applique, of my white fabric, I want it to hit, let's see if I can zoom in on that, right on the edge of the fabric. So I'm not sure if this is going to zoom in. See if I get it to focus. So it's right on the edge. So that's where I'm going to sew. When you're doing your applique as well, don't forget you can use your hand wheel to have a bit more control. And this, because it's going to be a full circle, I'll do a little reverse stitch when I get to where I started to finish it off. Okay, so I've done all my applique stitch using the applique setting. And what I would do now is trim, and with these little eyebrows I did a teeny tiny reverse stitch. You can just see a little bit there and there that I've reversed. And same with these, I went all the way around and then just went back over where I started and did a teeny tiny reverse stitch. So I need to trim all my threads, then I'm going to do my straight stitch around the felt. So I'm ready to do my straight stitch applique, so I need to change my stitch to 11. This is on 0, my stitch width, and my stitch length is 2.5. Now just a reminder, when you line it up, you want it to be relatively close to the edge of the felt. So if you can see here, see if I can zoom in for you, how close I am. So if I was using something on the presser foot as a guide, I've got the middle, I've got that notch there. So I'm kind of aiming for in between the middle and that notch. That's where I'm aiming to line up the edge of my felt. So I can stitch that around. I'm not going to do a reverse stitch because I'll do that when I get back to where I started. So you can see with my hands, I've just got them here on the sides and I'm using them to manipulate the fabric around. And I'm sewing quite slow. You can toe tap here for a bit more control. And I'm going to turn the corner. And then I'm going to use the hand wheel because it's a little bit hard to get around. Lift up my presser foot. Just to get around those ears. So there's lots of stopping, lifting of the presser foot just to get around my felt. I don't know if you can hear that. I'm using the hand wheel like I said before. And I'm still trying to keep my stitch line nice and close to the edge. I don't want to go too close that I fall off. And I'm trying to keep that nice and even. And now I'm coming back to where I started, so I'm going to do teeny tiny reverse stitch. Okay, and that is my finished applique. So I'll have to trim my threads, and then I just have one thing, and that's going to be my little eyes to stitch on. So I've got my 2 black beads which I'm going to use as the eyes. I'm going to stitch these on using a hand sewing needle and some black thread. Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a length of thread, not too long, maybe about 40 centimeters. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold that thread in half so the ends meet. And I have this end here, which is where I folded it, and I've given it a bit of a twist. I don't know if you can see that. And then we're going to thread that folded end through the eye of the needle. Trying to get, I might move that to get it to focus. So you can see I've got 2 threads going through the eye of the needle, and then I'm going to meet all those ends together. So I've got 4 and tie a knot. So this is going to allow me to stitch the button, they're not buttons, the beads on with fewer stitches. So from underneath I'm gonna see, I've got my big knot here, and from underneath I'm gonna come up through where I want my bead to go, and I want it to come to be sewn in the middle of that little grey triangle, and put my bead on. And then I'm going to go back down just next to that where I came out. And pull it nice and tight. And I'm going to go up and do one more. So come back up. Try and come out where you first came out. Back through. And back down. Now because I did my thread like that, I've actually got 4 threads going through at once, and because I've done 2 stitches, it means I have 8 threads there holding that in place. Now I should have enough thread to come across to where the next one's going to be sewn. Now depending on what you're stitching, you may need a longer piece of thread. My bead on, go back down, and come back one more time, coming out, and then back down. I'm almost out of thread. I need enough left to be able to do a knot. So that's where I'm at. I've got that much thread left. So what I'm going to do, because I've got 4, I'm going to cut my thread. And I'm going to just remove my needle and tie a knot. Do like a double knot. So you may need to cut more thread than what I did, so you have enough to do your knot. So 1 knot, then I need to do 1 more, so I've got a double knot. 2 knots. There are my little beads sewn on for eyes. Looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. So now I'm ready for the next step, which is putting it all together.